Hi, welcome to Billboard Happiness. I'm Laura Scholes-Bedecker, a copywriter and brand consultant living in Oakland, California, with my husband and our 13-year-old daughter and 2 dogs and 4 chickens.
And I'm Dr. Jerome Burt. I'm a clinical psychologist with a practice in Nashville, Tennessee. Laura and I have been best friends since high school, and now we're doing a podcast.
Yeah. Billboard Happiness takes the best advice on happiness and health from the smartest people and turns it into short, easy to communicate nuggets of wisdom that your kid will actually listen to.
Well, let's get to it.
Hey, Jerome.
Hey, girl, good to hear your voice.
Yeah, you too. And I'm seeing you so clearly today. You have a new computer.
Yes.
And you look so beautiful there in your living room.
You're so good. You're so good. Tell me, Laura, how are you sleeping?
How am I sleeping?
Yeah.
Horribly.
What?
Why do you say? How did you?
I just decided at the gym about an hour and a half ago that was going to be my new way of greeting people. Instead of saying, how are you doing? I'm just going to ask them how you're sleeping, because that really cuts to the chase. You know,
it sure does, like, especially for a woman over 50.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to be at the Trader Joe's for a lot longer if you start asking women that question. You're never going to get out of there.
Well, I asked one dude and he said, I'm sleeping like a baby. And I was like, that's why you look so great. And he's like, no, I got this new toothbrush from Walgreens called a Doppler toothbrush. And it's just like, I was like, wow, it just opened up a whole conversation. Man, I remember what it's like to be 20 something. And he's like, it's fire.
Oh, good for him. He recognizes his bounty of being in his 20s.
Well, it's also a function of good sleep. You know, I don't think he would have been as wonderfully engaging if he wasn't sleeping well. And so what are we going to do about you getting better sleep?
I'm doing everything I can. And, you know, in my world, sleeping like a baby is also true, because that means I'm getting up every 2 hours like a baby does. I don't know. I think it's a combination of really super busy at work, Nora starting high school, sports, lots of things going on. And so my mind is kind of racy. So I did talk to my naturopath about it. I live in California. I have a naturopath.
I guess they want to give you need to eat 4 kiwis and drink some cherry tart.
I got the tart cherry. I got that because of Huberman and Matthew Walker. That's not working. So my naturopath recommended a supplement cortisol manager, like to kind of lower the stress cortisol release, because I do feel like I'm waking up with my mind racing. It isn't just this and that. Like, so we'll see.
Are you journaling before you go to bed?
No, I just read before I go to bed. I guess I could journal. I've never done that.
Yeah. If you journal before you go to bed, journal about all the things that, you know, you are that to-do list or something. Well, I shouldn't be giving clinical advice right now because I'm not sure if this empirically validated what to journal about, because I always say journal about what you're grateful for. But if you get a few hours before bed, I think Matthew Walker said on a Huberman interview that all the things that are on your mind, you journal about it like an hour or so before bed. And that's shown to improve sleep by 50%.
Whoa. Was that in that interview? I don't remember that.
And the other part, your poor husband, I heard it's like, if he knew this, he would be trying to make sure that you got some sleep, because it says the research shows that for every hour of sleep a woman gets, it increases her chances of wanting to hook it up 14%. Yeah. I don't know what 14 times 7 is. But he'll
Okay.
be trying to increase it to 11.
Well, that I love the note about journaling about what's going on an hour or two before bed. That makes a lot of sense. And I'll try that. I mean, I you should see I'm taking my Apigen. That's
Uh-huh.
also from Huberman.
Uh-huh.
He takes that before sleep. It even though on the bottle it says for prostate health. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care. I'm taking it. I'm doing everything. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to triangulate, but nothing's working yet. But I'll do the journaling. I'll try that. I'll report back.
Well, we're gonna circle back to this sleeping well in just a minute. But go ahead and talk about this wonderful book right now.
Yes. Oh, well, well, both of us are super excited to share this book. It actually just came out. I just swallowed it whole in a couple of days. It's called Dopamine Nation. The author is Anna Lemke, MD. The subtitle is Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence. So Dr. Lemke is she's the medical director of the Stanford Addiction Medicine Clinic. So she's a psychiatrist, but also a researcher too. And so she's obviously given the title of her institute. She's an addiction specialist. And the book is about addiction for sure, but her thesis is that in our current society, we're kind of addicted to everything. Like we live in such a time of plenty that this dopamine system really plays a part in every part of our lives, not just when it comes to addictions of the traditional kind, like we think about of drugs or alcohol or smoking. Um, so the book, I will say before Jerome weighs in, because I know he's got a lot to say. When I opened it up, some books like this, you just feel like either A, this could have been an article, or B, I should have listened to a podcast about this, which I have and did. Um, and then it just is too heavy and scientific and like, yeah, it's great knowing all that, but just tell me what to do. And this book was so engaging, immediately accessible, um, like just the right level and depth of science and understanding of the why, but her own story she works in, and then stories of the patients she's worked for, all anonymized, of course. I don't know. I just thought it was on top of the information. I thought it was a beautifully executed book and beautifully written book and just highly readable. So big thumbs up. What did you think,
Yes,
Jerome?
I thought the same thing. And it's interesting you say you just sucked it up because Andrew, Huberman, where both of us learned about the book, said the same thing. He just, in one reading, and I just thought it was really great. Now, I am not uh, Mr. Fast Reader, and it took me more than just one reading, but
Yeah,
I
same.
thoroughly I highly recommend it. And I was even at the gym talking to some dude this morning, and then giving him, making him screenshot pictures of, of the talks that she did with Rich Roll,
Mm,
and and uh and with Andrew, because this guy didn't know about either of those talks. And he's an AA person, and I found last week that my AA people really enjoyed what they've learned from her.
hmm,
She's I think it's readable, and but uh and and it's because she has got her act together. I
yeah.
think that she has a strong, her alignment with her thoughts and her actions and her feelings. And I know we're going to get to telling the truth, and I think that she was telling her truth
Ooh,
and in every regard. And
yes.
I just like the way she interviews, the way she writes. strong person. She just seems like she's so together, even in her being honest about being a neurotic parent.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I'm not giving anything away really, but like throughout the book, she recounts her own story of being addicted to romance slash erotica novels at one point in her life.
Right.
And she goes back to that again and again. And like, it was just like, it was almost more shocking than if she had admitted to being addicted to alcohol or drugs.
Right.
Like, it just doesn't seem at all like her. And I thought that was very brave to talk so extensively about it.
And it does seem like her in that I can see how people, I think that I, I mean, it's interesting to me how many people are taken aback by the fact that she was, that disclosive, because so many people I think have their own kink,
Yeah.
that some are much more socially acceptable and don't have that, there's not as much shame, but there are a lot of us that have things that take us away from being connected.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
it was taking her away. Yeah. And so yeah. But yeah, I really dig her. I dig the book and I dig what she's saying.
Yeah. Well, the general idea of the book is again dopamine nation. It's all about how, like I said, we're in this land of plenty, so we're always got this our dopamine being released. Which so dopamine is what gets released. Like Jerome said when he started this call, he's all high dopamine because he's had a good conversation or sex or a cup of coffee or a drink. Like dopamine gets released, but then when if you have too, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jerome, because I'm getting into the science part, which I'm not the expert in. So but if you do too much of it, it starts blunting it, and
Mm.
it doesn't work as well, so you need more, and then you just need more and more and more. And then it also is cause there's like a pain aspect. She called it's like a teeter totter, and she has these great
Mm.
little illustrations in the book of pleasure and pain being on either
Mm.
side of the teeter totter. And can you talk a little bit about that
Well,
whole
yeah,
theory of why that works?
dopamine is the anticipatory neurotransmitter. It's the seeking. It's just like you're waiting, and you get your biggest dopamine release, greatest dopamine release, when your horse is about to win. And then once your horse wins, the levels start returning, and they go back down. And
Right.
so, and now, if it's just a horse race and you're not addicted to gambling, they won't go back down so low and be so painful that you've got to do this again. And
Right.
that's what she's talking about, the
The pleasure
seesaw effect,
plane,
that
pleasure
we
pain teeter totter.
we that exactly, we need homeostasis. If you get too high, you got to go low, bro, all the way down to the flow, to the flow, to the flow. If you get too high, it's like Icarus. Don't
Mm,
fly too close to the sun, and um don't fly too close to the ocean,
mm-hmm.
and then you'll have balance in your life.
Right. Well, and I mean, she talks about, she gives some examples of what raises your dopamine, what percent. So she's saying
Mm-hmm.
chocolate increases dopamine about 50% above the
Mm-hmm.
baseline. Um, Sex is 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Nicotine or a cigarette is 150, and then amphetamines is 1,000%. So
Right.
to your example, like you have a little chocolate, you're done, you kind of go back to baseline, not that big of a deal. But when you're
Mm-hmm.
on the amphetamines and you're way up, when you come
Mm-hmm.
off, you're going to go way down. um
And that's why it's, I think the we're gonna all wake up and realize how great it is to live organically and do the harder thing Because one thing about, as she would say, taking the walking up the hill instead of taking the gondola up, is that you get to enjoy the process along the way, and the effects, the changes neurochemically that occur once you get, if you've done a 3 hour hike, you still get the benefits as you go down.
Right,
You're still getting some semblance of a high as you go
right.
down. And so, doing the harder thing is a beautiful thing. And I had a friend that used to always ask that question: if it feels good, should you do it? And it's like, yeah, as long as it's hard to get that feeling's a hard thing for you to get.
Well, and I think that, I mean, that's
As long as you have to work to get that
to
high, is
get
what I
that
mean.
high.
Right,
Right.
right.
Right. And sometimes it can be it can be painful to get that high.
Yeah,
Like you're saying,
yeah,
like we did the mountain in Park City a few weeks
right.
ago, and you did it twice, of course. I didn't. I only did it once, but it was, yeah, it hurts
Yes,
to go
yes,
up that
yes,
hill. And
yes.
and that is kind of the reason why it's called dopamine nation, is that
Right,
it, again, getting outside of the drugs alcohol idea of addiction, is when we're so kind of pursuing pleasure all the time and making things easy for ourselves all the
right.
time, that can actually lead to pain. So,
That's right. That's right.
or lack of joy at the very least,
Well,
right?
ease leads to disease, and low hanging fruit, like, are usually, when you're reaching for low hanging fruit, you are already in pain. Usually, you're trying to avoid being bored. Boredom is painful, and you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to avoid being bored. And I think it's novel to hear someone say that, so you reach for the the your phone, and you can watch kitty videos on YouTube, and as soon as, unconsciously, that when you stop, you're going to get back to that painful boredom feeling. And
Yeah.
so you keep watching more kitty videos, and and then you're 2 hours in, and still you're going to have to go through that painful boredom feeling.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to avoid, telling people, raising your kids to go, to go the easy route. I mean, I know that we're hardwired to do the easy thing. I mean, we're hardwired to reach for the low hanging fruit. You don't go climbing up. You got to conserve your energy. You don't go
Right.
climbing a tree for a banana if there's one just hanging there. And we're not hardwired to be patient,
Yeah.
either. But that's when you're living in the forest. I mean, now we're living in a world where everything can be dropped in your lap, and you will be manipulated into thinking that they've done you a favor. You didn't have to
Mm-hmm.
get off your butt, and do anything. And it just, she takes issue with it, and she's very concerned about the how the world's unfolding
Yeah.
because we go for the ease.
Well, and it's you no longer have a full-size refrigerator because
That's right. That's
you
right.
want, when your refrigerator broke, you wanted to get a dorm size refrigerator, so it would force you to go to the store every day or every other
Absolutely.
day and get
That's right.
fresh food. And that's, I
That's
mean,
right.
it's an example of this. Like, it's not easy to go to the store every day, but it kind of gets you out of your ease and
That's right.
eliminates your disease.
I am not a fan of the meal kit ordeal. Um, but I'm certainly a bigger fan of meal kit than frozen TV dinners. I think when they were making things easy for, like, my mom, they were like, here are these dinners. Like, you can just put them in the oven. Now they
Right.
took 20 minutes to put them in the oven,
With those
but
little
it
pot pies. Remember
right.
the,
Oh
ooh.
God, 5 for 99 cents.
I
You could get
remember.
five, or four for $1. And think my mom would like put a little butter on them, and and make them
Doctor
good and
them up.
pretty. Yeah, yeah, she doctor, but but the meal kits, I think that I like what they do near chemically. It's just like we're anticipating this new meal that we're gonna try, and it's like, oh, I wonder what this will be like. And I mean, it just sucks you in, but it's a good suck.
Yeah.
And you
And you
get to
do
be
have to make it
and you
like it.
do have to participate in making it happen. And then you get to like savor it and share it because they're for more than one. And there
And
you go.
and they're easy for kids to help with. So I'm pushing back, not pushing back, but jumping on the pro meal kit because Jerome knows we use one called Sunbasket. They do
Mhm.
not sponsor our podcast, but I have to give a shout out to Sunbasket and
and I,
for
and I,
making.
and I want to give them a thumbs up too, because and I guess, and blame it on Anna, because it made me rethink how these things are
Mm,
still working for people in a good way. Though it's
yeah.
like old fashioned high. This is an old fashioned high. Get your meal kit from Sunkist, or what is it,
Sunbasket.
from Sunbasket, and get high the old fashioned way.
Well, speaking of getting high, this book is also really great for people who do have more traditional, addictions, substance and alcohol. And one thing, and I'll just mention this, we don't really need to talk about it, but I thought it was interesting just quantitatively is that she's learned in all of her work with people is that if you can get if she can get her patients to stop using the substance for 4 weeks, then they have a really good chance of they're going to start feeling better, and they're going to have a really good chance of feeling better enough that they see what it was doing to them. And obviously anybody who's listening who has a history of substance abuse or family members, we know it's not that easy and that isn't some kind of magic cure. But I think it's definitely something if you're talking about a kid who has gotten into habit of smoking pot, maybe even during the pandemic, or something that doesn't have maybe the heaviness of a long-term addiction. I think that 4 week mark is a really interesting one and kind of hopefully gives people hope that there's something that they can do as a parent if they can get their kid to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It's like, just don't smoke for a month. I want you to try something. I want you to go for a month. And so I had pushback on this already. It's like, oh, okay, I'll do it for you. And it's just like, wow, now I thought that would be a harder sell. It's like, no, I really don't smoke that much. I'm like, well, um, I thought you got high a lot. I mean, I use gummies. I mean, but like, edibles, but I don't smoke. I'm like, wait, okay. It's like, that's what's so dangerous. Even gummies and edibles have been so integrated into the culture lately
Yeah,
that people don't think of that as getting high.
right. Well, yeah, because it's considered microdosing
Right.
usually. Um, but you're right. But it's still consumption. It's
Right.
still doing something to your brain and your systems.
That's right. That's
Wait,
right.
so did your person or patient actually quit for you? Or
Well, the person said, okay, well, I'll try that. I'll do that. I'll do that for you.
mhm.
And but I had to include the gummy edible edible thing because
Oh,
edible thing because the, they were separating that from, um notice I'm being gender neutral here. I'm not like sounding like, I love like how somebody that's not ready to come out yet, they always say, and they were like, and they this, and it's like, anyway, so yeah, and so but that was about to slip through the cracks there, like gummies and edibles are not, really weed. And this is why she's writing this book, because we're in so much trouble of like, or found there's so many ways to make the pain go away.
Yeah. That seem innocuous.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Right. So, one of the sections that I really wanted to discuss today, because I thought I did not see it coming, and it's toward the end of the book. And the chapter is called Radical Honesty. And it was about the importance of telling the truth when it comes to getting out of an addiction, or basically just living life in a good way. And she talks about the fact that we're wired to lie. She says that children begin lying as early as age 2, and the smarter the kid, the more likely they are to lie and the better they are at it. And she also says that lying tends to decrease between the ages of 3 and 14, possibly because children become more aware of how lying hurts people. Um, and of course, I have a 14-year-old, so that kind of perked my ears up like, oh boy, here we go. We're getting ready to get on the lying, back on the lying train. um, and, and, but it was so interesting because she talked about how, in addition to this 4-week fast, she calls it, of a substance, she also recommends to her patients that in that same month, to really try hard not to lie about anything. And by that, she doesn't mean just about substance abuse or whatever you're trying to give up, but anything, like why you were late for work, or why you had that second piece of cake, or why you hid that second piece of cake that you ate. And she said it's because it is really hard to tell the truth. So it's, again, going toward that pain actually increases your dopamine. So the kind of the more honest you can be, even though it's hard and it hurts, the more your dopamine will be released and you'll feel better. And so it's a virtuous circle. Like, the harder it is to tell the truth, the better it feels. And then it
Mm,
keeps building on itself. And
mm,
I just thought it also strengthens the brain. Like, it keeps going and you get stronger and stronger. And you just develop better habits and your brain gets stronger for it. And I just thought that was super interesting.
I love, just truth telling and her saying that, because it resonates with my favorite, absolute favorite life skill, which is radical acceptance.
Tara.
And actually, it's not Tara. It's before she did that, it was a borderline researcher back in the day. Oh gosh, what's her name? What's her name? Oh gosh, I can't think of it right now. But radical acceptance is one of the tools that she, put out about 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And for borderlines, and just, you don't fall apart if the house has been painted purple and you paid them to paint it beige, and you get home and you've got a purple house. You don't fall apart. You just like, all right, this is the wrong color. What do we need to do? you know
Mm,
all right, this girl says, I don't see a future. All right, you grab your heart and you're like, dang man, that's tough, and then you move on.
mm.
The car flipped, you're safe. Let's go for pancakes. And
Well, tell me how you relate radical acceptance to
because you're not
radical
lying,
honesty.
you're
You're
not
not lying
lying,
to yourself.
you're not lying to. Anytime you are not accepting reality, then you are resisting God. And God, just I'm one could argue that God is reality. And if you try to push against God, you're not going to win that. It's not going to
Mm,
look good in the long run. And so when she says tell the truth, it's like being honest with yourself, being honest with what you see, and you can feel whole. And and yeah, you're going to get some bit of a rush out of feeling whole, and you're not going to eat up bandwidth trying to remember
Which lie
what you
you told to who?
which lie you told who. And two, you just feel more alive anytime there's more activity in your prefrontal cortex. You feel more alive, especially if there's a syncness in the aliveness. If your if your story is aligned what with reality,
Mm-hmm.
uh you're gonna feel whole and alive.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, even beyond the addiction part, I just think it's such a great, like you say, a lesson for life. Like this is, and again, with kids, like I think it's helpful to acknowledge to yourself and to them, like we're wired to lie, but here's how telling the truth is better for you. And here's kind of what your life can be like if you're telling the truth. Again, you're not going to say that to a kid, but um, it's good, I think, for parents to understand and to be aware of this thing that kids are wired. We're all wired to lie. I think that's a nice grounding. Like, okay, what are we going to do with that? Where are we going to go from that? And how do we kind of instill not just the moral um, thing of like you're not supposed to lie, like it's really like telling the truth is good for your soul. It's good for you. It may not feel like it in the moment, but looking long term, that it's good for you, not just because it's the right thing to do.
And I think we're it's a little harsh to say that we're wired to lie. I think a sweeter kind of way of saying it is we are wired to survive.
Mm,
And you know um are there any Jews in there? No, there are no Jews hiding. I mean, it's like
mm,
you're helping people. You're hiding people from the Nazis, and I mean, that's a lie, but it's a survival as well.
right.
And to be aware of it, you be aware of I even if you have kids, it's like, why would you lie to me? It's like, I'm lying to you because it's not adaptive to like not be liked. And if I tell you, what you don't want to hear, you might not like me.
Yeah,
And I just want you to like me. I don't want you to to be upset with me. And
yeah,
that all of that's adaptive as well.
right.
So, it's just like um but I do know that what she's talking about too, though. Like I was so excited about one of her interviews that I sent it to one of my people, and because it was something that they told me a couple of years ago, that telling the truth was so important. By the way, y'all, she is really big into the AA culture. And
Mm,
so
yeah.
this person was an AA person, and and is and it's been wonderful for him. And so he told me when he was trying to get a new job that it wasn't going well because he wasn't interviewing well, and he wasn't interviewing well because um he couldn't lie, he couldn't fudge. It's like I I trying to say you worked on this project or that project, and really, all you did was staple some papers together.
Oh.
I know, but like really sticking to it, I was like, wow, now I see the extent to which, because you don't want to trigger any old pathways that
Yeah,
the next thing you know, it's just like, well, it's just a little lie, you know.
that's right. Yeah,
Right,
slippery
right.
slope.
Yeah, slippery
Slippery
slope.
slope.
Well, anyway.
Well, I love this book. Obviously, you did too, and I think we've mentioned several interviews that she's had. Yeah, just look for her name. Her last name is spelled Lembke, Anna Lemke, MD. And I thought she did an especially great interview with Terry Gross on Fresh Air. Very accessible. Much more kind of um, the general public
Mhm.
message versus the Huberman more down into
Mhm.
the science, but equally great.
Mhm.
But we highly recommend it. And again, it's a super easy, lovely book to read. So we're big fans, obviously.
And
And
I say, if you can get to go on a hike with this woman, like I think I want to know her. I want to be friends with her. I just love how like she is just so frank and wonderful and warm. She just really seems like she's got her stuff together, and she's not afraid of like how, telling the truth too is about appreciating that humility is a good thing. If you are lame, own it.
yeah,
I rarely hear people, and that's what she thinks about the empathy, that the therapeutic culture. There's there's a too much empathy,
yes,
and not letting anybody, you let people off the hook, and you like say, you hold their hand versus like you really ought to feel. Yeah, I guess it does make sense that you feel like crap about yourself right now. It makes sense given what just happened. I mean, wouldn't you be concerned if you didn't feel like bad about, hooking it up with somebody's, it's always about hooking up. But like I mean, and so like yeah, I dig this woman. I think she's got her act together.
well, I agree. And I'm happy to share it and excited to see what's next for her and to share a new book with you on our next podcast.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
we got to come up with a billboard, Jerome.
Oh gosh, I have had so many things running through my head. Lying doesn't always mean you're dying. I don't know.
That's a good one. Well, I love your earlier one, which I've heard you say, but fits perfectly for this book, was the ease disease one.
Ease leads to disease.
AIDS leads to disease.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
a good one.
Oh gosh, yeah. And that is just so true. It's just so true. Oh, obviously, I think it's good too. I'm about to go into talking about it again. You're right. That one I thought of. That's woo. It wouldn't, y'all. If I've said it before, there wouldn't be a practice of psychology if there was not so much. There's just so much ease. You know,
That's right.
there. If we had to share that deer, if if you had to catch a fish in the morning and kill a deer at night to live, and because it's hunting season in the South, y'all, and right now you can still fish in the morning and then get your good hunt on. It's deer season now, and you can get that on in the evening, and you just got a full day right there, right, Bobby? Right, Bobby Jack? So anyway.
Bobby Jack. Yeah, you would be out of a job, especially in the South.
Oh my gosh. And then too, if there's no refrigerator, you can't freeze that deer. You got to go share it with everybody. So it's a party.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Or you're walking
Right.
miles and miles to take it to cousin Jed over in the next town.
Anyway,
Well, I always love discussing these books with you. I think that both of those billboards are great, and look forward to seeing you next time.
I and to hearing that you are sleeping much more soundly like a baby. I
Yes,
swear your skin looks like you are doing sleeping well.
that's a
Yeah.
Zoom filter.
The
I'll report
Zoom
back on my
filter.
sleep.
All righty.
All right. Love you,
Be lovey
Jerome.
peace. Love you too, babe. Bye.
Bye.